Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're working on the good old SIG 553. As promised, if you haven't seen my other videos, you won't know what this is. This is the 3-round burst module for this rifle. Just for YouTube, again, this is an airsoft toy, not a real firearm. None of what you see on my channel are real firearms, they're all airsoft. So what we're doing here is, if you don't know the backstory on this, I'll just give a quick one. I bought this under the impression it was a 3-round burst model. It was not. So what I've got here is I've done some research, and to my understanding, this part here is the 3-round burst module, which should fit inside that and convert it to 3-round burst. So I thought I'd bring you guys along for the ride. I've no idea how long this is going to take me. I might pause the video part of the way through because I don't know what's involved in doing it. I have had the trigger group out already because I've done a little bit of work on one of the sears to see if I could make the trigger feel a bit better. Turns out, no, I can't. I've done a little bit of work on it, and to be honest with you, it's no different than it was before. So if you are thinking of trying to improve your trigger on your SIG, GHK SIG 551 or 553, don't bother. There isn't a way of doing it unless you go down a full custom route. So let's get this apart then. Let's see if we can fit this part inside. I'm going to stop the video here while I just separate the upper and lower because these pins are crazy tight on my model. I'm literally at this point sometimes using one of these to get the bloody things out. So I'll pause it here, I'll get the upper and lower separated, and we'll have a look from there. Alright guys, so here we go. Here is our lower receiver. So what we're doing here is we are trying to install the burst mechanism inside here. Now, we'll take the burst mechanism out of the packet and see what's involved. My understanding is this is one complete sealed unit which doesn't come apart, which looks about right. We've got this arm here, which I assume this is part of the sear to hold the hammer in place. This obviously is your 3-round burst gear, which obviously moves back and forth. Looking at the inside here, I assume it operates off of this little tab here, potentially. And from what I've seen pictures wise, it fits in. You can see these 2 holes in it here. They fit between these 2 pins here. So these 2 have definitely got to come out. So what we're going to do is going to drop the hammer. So we need to press down the disconnector and then pull the trigger to drop the hammer off here. Now, what we're going to need to do is we need to take this apart. Now, to take this apart, as I found out before when I was fiddling with this, we need to first of all punch out one of these roll pins on the fire selector. I went with this side last time and it seemed to be the best choice. So I'm going to do that again. We'll get that punched out and then we'll go from there. I'm glad I don't have to hold the camera and do this. So there's our roll pin out. And then we want to take the selector off. This is where I should really be using my magnetic tool tray. Parts tray, sorry, so I'm going to grab that quickly. There we go. And if you wanted any kind of clarification, this is steel. Straight away. There we go. Holding in there nicely. Okay, now obviously I'm trying to get a good angle for this, so I might have to adjust the camera's position. Annoyingly, the stock is really in the way, but I really don't want to punch this pin out because I don't want it coming loose. So I'm going to try to do it this way round, however, it can be a little bit tricky, so apologies if you do lose sight of what I'm doing here. I'm going to try to keep it in focus if I can. So if we want to remove this pin, which we do, it's held in by this spring here. Now this spring, there's a little step on the pin and the spring locks in place to hold the pin in to stop it drifting in and out. It's a very clever idea. Whether or not it copied the real steel here, I don't know. I'm assuming so because it is quite a clever idea. It's this spring here, goes over here and locates that pin in place. So this does need to come out, and this houses all of your sears, and this is obviously your fire selector. So first of all, we're going to get the fire selector out. So we want to lift this spring slightly and then push the fire selector out, and then we're going to try to walk it out by just rotating it back and forth slightly, trying to unhook it from its position, and then out it comes. Notice all the springs have gone haywire now. Now this spring is actually still holding this pin in place. So what we need to do to get that pin out is to push this downwards, and you can see that's just dropped down out of the way now, and we can now push this pin out, he says. Now it might be something else in the way holding it there. No, that seems okay. Maybe it's from this side, I can't remember. There we go. So that's coming out now. So the pin comes out. There we go, there's that little step I was talking about, which the spring clips into, and then we can take out our trigger with our sears attached. Now, if you're wondering what I did to try and sharpen up the trigger, by the way, it was unsuccessful. But what I did here is, if you have a look at the sears, and you can just about see here that we've got this sear here has like a rounded edge on it. And basically what was happening is the hammer was just touching this edge here. So literally all you have to do is pull it slightly and it will roll off of the edge. So what I actually did, I think I lost the spring there. What I actually did with the main sear was to take it out and weld some extra material to the end and reprofile it so it was square. Because I thought, well, at the end of the day, if this is able to make more of a contact, then obviously it's going to make the trigger better. It changed nothing. So if you want to do anything like that, don't bother, it wasn't worth it. So we'll put that down there. Now, here is the part we need. And obviously we need to now fit it in place. Now, from what I've seen, it fits in this way down, like so. Now, I have no idea if this is just going to work or whether or not I need to do anything else to this. I've got no idea. Now this part seems to move on its own, but I can see in here, maybe you guys can see that, but there is a spring here which is part of the hammer spring, which I think probably rests underneath that and presses down. Now I do have some photos from Gaz at HCIS Airsoft of his system, so I'm going to quickly have a look at those. So I'm going to pause this here, have a look at those, and I'll have a look and see if I can figure out whereabouts it goes. I suspect it goes underneath that. So I'll be back with you guys in a moment. Okay guys, so I've just had a quick look. So I think I figured some of it out. So from what I can tell, I'll put this spring back in place here because I don't want to lose it. Hopefully you can see that. So from what I can tell, this fits over that there. And hopefully you can see this, but we have this gear that moves, and there's also this pin on the trigger. So from what I can fathom, which again, I could be completely wrong, this obviously, being spring loaded, is actioned by whatever's going on here and some other bits and pieces, which then controls how many shots you get out of the burst mode. So I'm guessing what happens is the fire selector rotates round, it then pushes on this, which then moves the arm into place. I mean, you can just about see that, and that then will engage the burst mode. So yeah, fairly clever idea. And it does look like this is now compatible with everything I've got here, so it looks like we'll be able to make this work with no other components. So, you know what? I give GHK a lot of stick, but you know what, fair play to them. That is a clever idea if this is the case, and it will work. So now we've got to try and reassemble this. Now, I don't expect this to be easy. I expect this to be extremely difficult, actually. So, yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's try and get this back together. So first of all, I'm going to try and locate this burst mechanism inside the receiver. And then I'm probably... Actually, no, I can't do it that way. I need to put this on here first, because it's the only way it's going to slide in. So that needs to go on there first, and then I need to fit it inside of the receiver. This stock is really in the way, but I'm going to slide that into position in here. Okay, so that's slotted in place, and the trigger is out where it needs to be. I'm then going to put the pin through for this. That's going to hold this in place. The rest of this, I believe I do need to pop that spring over this arm here. So I'm going to do that now. It's very difficult to do this on camera, so I'm going to attempt to do what I can, but there's going to be some other bits and pieces I'm going to need to just refer back to my previous photos to make sure I've got everything where it needs to be, because I don't want to have to take this apart 3 or 4 times. So I'm just going to quickly check back and then come back to you now. Okay guys, I'm back. So I've just relocated the camera a little bit because it was getting quite difficult to get this in place so you can see what I'm doing. So what I've just done here is I've moved the hammer spring to rest on top of the tab that controls this arm here. I believe that's the right way to do it. From the pictures I've seen, that looks correct. I could be completely wrong, of course, so I don't know. But I'm just going to go with it and we'll see what happens. So next thing I'm going to do is install the pin which holds the trigger and sears in place. Again, I expect this is going to be a bit of a faff, so bear with me. I'll try and keep my hands out of the way so you can see what I'm doing, but I've no idea. We'll have a look. So that wasn't quite what I was after. Oh. If you can't tell already, taking your GHK SIG 553 apart is a bit of a faff. If you wanted any confirmation that it's a bit of a faff, this is your confirmation. Okay, so I've almost got the pin all the way through now. You can see it's resting back a bit. Now, part of the reason why I can't is because there's that ridge on it. So now I need to sort of move it into place so I can get that pin all the way through. It's going to be a bit of a pain, I can imagine. So I think it needs to go down some and across. I'll see if I can have a look at it from this position and push it through. There we go. That's it. Right, good. So I'm just going to knock that through a little bit. Lovely. Right, so that's in place, and we've got the burst mechanism in there now. So the next stage is we're going to fit our fire selector back in. Now, this is also a bit of a faff. So what we have to do is that spring which we saw drop down here has to go over the top of it to hold it in place, and that also, as you've just seen there, you've seen it locks the pin in place as well. So we need to make sure we fit that in place. And I've just realised one key thing, which I'm sure all of you guys are already shouting at me about. I've forgotten to install the trigger spring. Damn it. Right, I'm going to break this apart, fit that back in there, and I'll come back to you guys. So I'm going to pause this for now. Okay, guys, I'm back. Notice trigger spring is now installed. Okay, so as I was saying, we now need to reinstall our fire selector. Now, notice when we look through the fire selector hole here, there's a couple of these pins which are poking out here. Now, obviously, we're going to have to manipulate these into position to make this work. So I fully expect this to be a right faff. We also need to make sure that these springs are in position over the top of this. This one needs to go below the fire selector. The other one needs to go above the fire selector. The reason why the other one goes above is that's what gives you your nice clicks going in between modes. So that's where that comes from. So again, I fully expect this to be a faff. I remember doing this before and I was shouting and swearing at it for quite a while, so forgive me. But this I fully expect to be a real pain. I can't remember which way round I did this. I think I did this one first, the trigger spring first. Now it is pretty strong, so it's going to be difficult. There we go. Hooking that in place. No, I am wrong. It has to be the other one first. Ow. Yeah, that hurt a bit. Okay, so let's hook this over first. Sorry guys, I'm trying to do this so you can see. So you've got to really put some oomph on it to try and get that over the top. And get that selector through at the same time. Really is not easy. Okay, there we go, we've got one part through. So I've just got it hooked in there at the moment. So I'm going to try and wriggle it through a little bit more. And then I can hopefully get the fire selector in a bit more. There we go, right, that's what we wanted. Okay, so next stage is we need to get this spring in position. Now at the moment, it's binding up. Oh, I'm gonna have to undo this again. See, I told you this was gonna be a faff. All right. I'm gonna have to hold it this way round. Hopefully you guys can see this. The reason why I need to hold this way round is that this spring keeps falling forwards, which then is binding up on the other spring. So again, I told you it's a faff. Okay. Right. God. Right. Let's try and rotate this in a bit more. Really testing out this Cerakote coating at the moment. Okay. And it's gone and done exactly the same thing again. Ah, oh, typical. Right. Let's try again. That's not what I was after. Okay, so things just got a lot harder. That spring has now decided to come unhooked. Right guys, I'm going to be back again soon because I'm going to have to try and fit this back in somehow. And I don't even know where it hooks in, so I'll see you guys in a bit. Me again. So I fixed that. Basically, that if that falls out on you at all, that spring hooks around the pin that holds the hammer in place. So yeah, don't let that fall out because that was, yeah, that was difficult. Right, okay, let's try this again. So I need to make sure I keep this hammer spring, this trigger spring over while I lift that other spring up, which again, it's not the easiest to do. So bear with me. I'm trying to keep this in the light so you guys can see it. Hopefully you can. If you can't, I do apologise. But obviously I'm trying to do this and film it. So, right, I've got it now. It's slightly above that, which is what I want. I'll try and lift this into position. I realise I've got the wrong tool for that. Okay. Right, that's in. Now let's try and lift that into position. There we go. Right. We're in place now. So now what I need to do is I need to push this trigger spring so that it goes underneath that selector now. And hopefully you guys can see that. So this is pretty stiff as well. So last time it flanged forwards and hit me in the hand a couple of times. So this is gonna probably hurt. Let's try the pliers, that might be easier. Almost had that then. The problem is you need to keep some pressure on this as well, on the selector, because if you don't, it's going to fly out and then you're going to lose this spring. And that one needs to go on first. Right. What else have I got I can use? Let's use a different screwdriver. Okay. See, I've almost got it there, but at the moment I'm pushing the selector out, which I don't want to do. So let's try and rotate that back in a bit. Otherwise I'm going to lose that other spring. Sorry guys, knocking you about now. Again, if you needed any other excuse to not mess with your SIG 553, this is exactly it. Oh, I've just pushed it out. What up? Okay, starting again. If you can sense me getting frustrated, guys, then you are quite correct. Because I remember doing this before when I had this apart, and it was just as annoying. So it's one of those jobs that you say to yourself, you know what? Yeah, I'm never going to do that again. And here I am doing it again. Who needs 3-round burst anyway, eh? Right, okay, again, try and get this in a position so you guys can see it. So I need to try and hold this in place so it doesn't pop out. I need to try and get this spring in place as well and not completely destroy my finger in the same process, which is easier said than done. Might try using the pliers, that might be easier. Ah, yes. Right, so that's what we wanted. So we've got trigger spring underneath the selector, that I don't know what to call it, but the detent spring, I guess, which sort of is the detent for the trigger spring. Let's call it a detent spring for now. I don't know what the technical name is for it, but that's what I'm going to call it. So it needs to be in that orientation, and then we can then rotate the select around a little, and we should be able to get it to go through. We might need to lift that spring a little more just to get it past it, and then push this one down slightly without releasing it. Okay, there we go, it's starting to come through a bit more now. So we can now start to rotate this round, and rotating it around will enable you to be able to move it. Now, I'm trying to remember where this goes, because this other spring needs to go in here, and I believe it goes underneath, but I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly where this part here goes, so I'm going to need to check my previous photos. And if you ever need an excuse why you need to take photos before you take stuff apart, this is exactly why. Always take photos of it before you take it apart. Make a mental note, do a drawing, whatever you want to do. You know, make sure you take some pictures or make some notes of where everything goes, because otherwise you'd be stuffed right now. So I'm going to refer back to my picture. I'll be back with you guys in a minute. Okay, So having a quick look at my photos here, the spring needs to go below the selector and that little arm needs to go above it, which obviously they want to do completely the opposite of that, which is always fun. So we need to try and get that spring underneath. Thankfully this spring isn't that tight or strong, so I should be able to get that in place no problem. Famous last words. There we go. Okay, so now normally this would go straight in. Well, obviously now we've got the problem where these other parts are in the way inside this 3-round burst module. So I can see here that this spring has dropped inside one of the grooves, so I'm going to rotate it round to be able to get that over. It is getting bound up somewhere. I believe it's on that. So let's move that up a bit. There we go. Now I think it's getting stuck inside here. There we go. Right. It's gone a bit further in now. Again, never force any of this stuff. You know, you do need a bit of brute force to get some springs in place, but you shouldn't have to really push on anything or bend anything in place. It should just sort of, you know, a bit of moving stuff around and rotating, everything should start to go in place. Right, so I can see at the moment that little spring is just getting caught, so I'm going to move that little spring down and out of the way a little bit. That should hopefully give me the clearance I need to get that in. Okay. We've still got nothing at the moment. Now I can see in here that this is obviously walked out of position slightly. That I think will move out of the way, so I think we'll be fine. It is starting to go. Again, I'm just going to rotate this a bit, see if I can get it to walk in a little bit further. Nothing at the moment. Just going to make sure that little spring is not in the way. It's not. So something is stopping it going in. Let's just have a look. Okay, there we go. It's starting to go in now. All right, so I need to rotate this round some more. Now, at the moment, it's spinning all the way around and nothing's happening. So something is locking it out, and I suspect it's something to do with maybe the burst mode or this arm. I'm not too sure which. Now that trigger spring is kind of in the way as well, so we need to pop that out of the way. Right, that didn't change anything. I can't really see if there's anything in the way there. I think what it is it's just this burst mechanism is just not quite aligned with this going through at the moment. So I think I'm going to have to just do a bit of moving it around, see if I can get it to align correctly. Now, it could be that I've got something in completely the wrong place. And, you know, if you guys know, great, but I don't. So I'm just figuring it out as I go. I've got no manuals with this. It didn't come with a manual. I've got no idea where everything goes. I'm literally just having a look and see what I can figure things out. So I've got no idea if anything's in the right place or not. It might be, it might not be. I've no idea. So we're still just rotating. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it here. I'm going to have a little head scratch and see if I can figure out what's going on. And I'll report back to you once I've figured it out. Success. What did I do? Let me try and think of a good way of phrasing this. Yeah, I messed about with it a bit. I'd love to be able to tell you what I did. Actually, I do know what I did. So this bar here that goes across and sort of indexes with the back of the hammer, I removed the spring, the hammer spring that was resting on it, which I have figured out I think should be on top of it. Moved it out of the way, and it was binding up against, it should be able to move up and down like this, but it was binding up against this selector. So as soon as I sort of wiggled it around and moved it down a bit, it just popped straight through and has gone straight through there. I haven't put the selector back on here, but I've just quickly tested it out, and I believe I've got a working 3-round burst, which I'm buzzing for at the moment. So let's explain why I think we've got a 3-round burst. So we've got it on 3-round. So there's your, I've gone way beyond now. So there's safe, there's semi, there's 3-round, and there's 20. So we've got it on the 3-round burst. Now if I pull the trigger, nothing's happening. The reason why nothing's happening is it's held on the auto sear, which is here. So if I press the auto sear down, then I'm back on the normal sear. So I can pull the trigger, the hammer will fall. I'm now going to cock the hammer. Now, I'm going to continue to hold the trigger down here. I haven't released the trigger at all. If I press the auto sear down, the hammer should fall, which it does. So that's 2 rounds. I'm now going to cock the hammer again. I'm going to press the disconnector down again, and notice it's tripped. So now I need to release the trigger for it to now drop onto the main sear, and I can now pull the trigger again. So again, 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, and the disconnector does nothing. I need to then release the trigger to then go back onto that. So I think we have 3-round burst working now. Now, one thing I will say is that the trigger feels very, well, I don't know if you can hear that. It just sounds like, which is basically what's happening, sounds like there's a lot going on in there when you've got it on that mode. Whether it's the same on, yeah, it is the same on that one as well. So it feels like there's a lot going on in there, which it didn't prior to the 3-round burst mechanism. So if that puts you off, don't fit 3-round burst. If it doesn't, who cares? So I think I'm going to button this up by putting the selector back on, which is probably the wrong decision, because no doubt now it's probably not going to work, and I'm going to have to take it all apart again, but, you know, it's all good fun, isn't it? Right, so let's put that back in place. I'll try and tap that in. Okay, let's knock that pin back in for now. Again, I'm trying to do this so you guys can see it, but at the end of the day, I'm just knocking a pin back in place, so it's hardly anything exciting, but, you know, it's part of the process, isn't it? So there's our pin back in, and we've got our selector all working perfectly now. Not over-travelling like it was before. If you're wondering why it over-travelled before, but it hasn't now, that's what this little tab here is for that pokes out. That's to stop the selector over-travelling. And again, going the other way, this part here stops it over-travelling as well. So it might sound like it's a really clever system, like, wow, how do they get it to stop? Actually, just it's a piece of metal in the way, that's all it is. Right, so let's get this back together. Let's try it out then. So I'm going to pause it there because getting these pins back in is a pain, and I'll be back with you in a moment. Fingers crossed with 3-round burst. Hey guys, so got him back together. So let's just quickly try this out then. So we're on safe here. no trigger movement. I'm going to go into semi. Hammer has just dropped, nothing else. So I'm now going to go, just cock it again, release the trigger, and I can pull the trigger again. So semi works. Now we're going to 3-round burst. So I should be able to cock this, and as I let go, it should drop the hammer. So I'm going to let it go forwards. Okay, that hasn't dropped the hammer there. Okay, I'm now going to pull the trigger. Hammer has dropped. Let's rack it back, slowly let the bolt forwards. We should hear the hammer drop. 1. 2, I've still got my finger down. I think that was 3. No, it didn't drop. Okay, fine. So that's 2 rounds. Okay. Sometimes these 3-round burst systems are a bit iffy. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Anyone who's got a WEMP5 knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, let's try them out. So get the old mag in. I'm going to have to hold the bolt catch down. So we're on 3-round burst. That's it, and I've let go of the trigger. Success. There we go, guys. So if you want 3-round burst on your SIG 553 and you don't already have it, you can have it. Go on to Zamoon's website, punch in the search bar 553 and look out for that part, which I no longer have because it's fitted inside there, but have a look back on the video, you'll see what I mean. Order that. I think it was 27 quid. Considering the cost difference between one which doesn't have 3-round burst, one which does, I think that's a bargain. So I've now got my Dream 553 Cerakote with the license markings, with the plastic grip, with 3-round burst. Unfortunately, mine has a broken stock still, but we'll figure that out at a later stage. So thanks for joining me for this today, guys. Again, if this is the kind of thing you like seeing, fair enough. I enjoy tinkering anyway. It doesn't bother me in the slightest that you guys join me for the journey. If you want to see me do more of this kind of stuff, then let me know in the comments. If you've got any questions about doing this, ask away. How would I rate this in regards to technical know-how? If you like to tinker, you'll be fine. If you get frustrated easily, I'd probably give it to your tech to do if he's willing to do it, or find someone that is willing to have a go for you. Bear in mind, if you do this yourself, please take pictures before you take anything apart, because I know this is supposedly a Swiss design. Obviously, it's made by GHK, so it's probably not, but you know what I mean. We should use the term Swiss watch. That's what this is. So, okay, guys, I'm going to call it there. Any questions, fire away. Anything you want to ask, again, ask away. Leave me a like if you can. Subscribe as well, because that really helps the channel. And I'll see you guys next time.